Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237, coming at you with kind of a random review. Figured for the month of February, there really isn't a whole lot of Valentine's Day films, and I've already done My Bloody Valentine, and I've done the remake. So there really isn't much else there is to do, but I did find this. I've heard of it. I'd never seen it before now, but that is Valentine from 2001. I always thought it was the late 90s. 2001, same fucking thing when it comes to slashers. Yeah, this was in my latest DVD update because I found it for like $4. Figured it's the month of February. It's a slasher film. I've been wanting to check out slashers from this period anyway, even though it's my least favorite. But yeah, I mean, this isn't a great movie by any means, but I would say it is one of the better 90s, like, 90s, early 2000s sort of, I don't know if you really say revival, because it didn't really act as a revival, but in the wake of Scream, the whole, pretty CW TV cast doing these cash-in slashers, these slash-ins, I guess. It is one of the better ones, along with Scream. I mean, Scream is the best one in the 90s, but this is still miles better than I Know What You Did Last Summer and Urban Legend and whatever else there is. I had heard of this film. I had known about I had seen the Cupid cherub mask. I've actually unit number 522 had done a top 10 slashers or underrated slashers, and this was on there. And I like the idea behind it. It's loosely based on a novel of the same name by Tom Savage, whoever that is. I like the tagline. Remember that kid everyone ignored on Valentine's Day? He remembers you. It really does feel like an 80s slasher, which I feel like it's trying to be. It's kind of like if you take Slaughter High, Alice Sweet Alice, and I guess Prom Night with the Valentine aesthetic. You kind of get this. I mean, Slaughter High because the stereotypically nerdy, dorky kid who, is the ass in everyone's eye, gets picked on. Alice Sweet Alice, it's not a translucent mask, it's a cherub mask, but it kind of looks like it. Doesn't wear a slicker, wears all black. And I guess Prom Night because it's like a dance, but it opens up in 1988. It's a 6th grade dance, and there's this kid, Jeremy Melton, who goes up to each of these 4 girls. Actually, there's 5. One isn't even on the cover. Each of these 5 girls to ask to dance, and they all crudely shut him down. Except for the last girl, who's kind of a overweight, shy girl. She agrees, and they're making out under the bleachers. Some of the popular kids come up, start making fun of him. And she says, no, he attacked me. Because that's a superpower that they have. They can just say, no, he attacked me, and everyone will believe him. They dump the Kool-Aid on him, strip him down to his underwear, drag him out to the dance floor, and beat the hell out of him. And then we jump 13 years later to 2001, and each of the girls are targeted. And this film really is, it is how it was in the late 90s, early 2000s, but just getting, because you had, Katherine Heigl, who was in a TV show called Roswell. David Boreanaz, who was in TV's Angel. Denise Richards, who, I don't know if she was in TV, but I know Wild Things was already out. Mary Shelton, who is probably the only actress in this movie that I actually like. Of course, she's Wendy Peppercorn on The Sandlot, but she was the nurse in Planet Terror. I actually like her. Now, I'm not a fan of Katherine Heigl or Denise Richards. It's just an overly attractive TV cast. That's how all slashers and horror movies were in the late 90s and early 2000s. Basically, that they get these clever but threatening Valentine's cards. Katherine Heigl is a med student. Denise Richards is the slut. She's the easy slut. Mary Shelton is, I guess, the one that has her life put together, but she's dating a recovering alcoholic. And let's see, who were the other two? There was Lily and Dorothy were the names of the other ones. Jessica Capshaw was Dorothy. She's the rich girl. She was the overweight girl that grew up. And Jessica Caulfield, she's sort of like the spunky one, the fun-loving one who's dating a eccentric artist. And the kills are few and far between. Well, not really few, but they are far between. Like, Katherine Heigl is the first one to get killed. She gets her throat slit. The kills aren't that imaginative. There were some scenes that begged for a kill. Like the Jessica Capshaw, the Dorothy girl, the rich one. She's dating this guy whose ex-girlfriend keeps showing up and saying how he's gonna use you for your money and whatnot. The end of the movie, there's this huge Valentine's party. And it's at this fucking mansion. And that ex-girlfriend is being chased, and she hides in a sauna. You could have done something with that. She still does get one of the better death scenes. I mean, she's thrown through a glass shower and pushed down on a shard of glass. Denise Richards does get the best kill, which is good because I hated her character the most. She's just the trashy slut. That's all Denise Richards is. The Jessica Caulfield, the spunky one dating the artist, she gets a bunch of arrows shot into her. And the last one sends her over the fire escape into a dumpster. And then there's like this one detective who's looking into it. And even early on, they're like, oh, what if it's Jeremy Melton? You know, remember him, that weirdo from 6th grade? And the movie tries to send you in different directions. Like, maybe it's this guy who Katherine Heigl was on a date with in the beginning. Or maybe it's this other guy that Denise Richards likes from speed dating. Maybe it's the detective. Maybe it's Mary Shelton's alcoholic boyfriend. It sends you all over the place. And I'd say I'm not the biggest fan of the ending. I'm not the biggest fan of this movie in general. It is one of the better ones of its time. I can say that. I can say that the movie, the characters, and the acting wasn't that great. Except for Mary Shelton. I liked Mary Shelton. David Boreanaz, other than just being the pretty boy, I guess he was one of the better male actors. But really not that great of just a pretty TV cast, but the premise, it was perfectly structured like an 80s slasher film. I can give it that. We get something traumatic in the past with a group of people who are, you have the victim, you have those who are guilty. We jump, you know, 10 plus years later, this case 13, we get a similar scenario like before it was Valentine's Day. It's Valentine's Day again. And our group of people are being targeted by the person wronged in the past. It classic 80s slasher setup. I mean, like I said, Slaughter High, Prom Night, Prowler, even the original My Bloody Valentine, similar. The Burning. The list goes on for slashers that have something decade or more before that happened that sets up the events for the present. The ending I didn't care for, like the big reveal, which I'll say spoilers if you want to check this out. But I mean, if you're a fan of slashers, you might like it. If you're a fan of 80s slashers, you might be able to appreciate the story, the structure, and so on. But if you're a fan of 70s and 80s slashers, you might not like it just because the only slashers that were really worth it in the 90s, other than Scream, because Scream was actually really smart and satirical, are just the really off-the-wall stupid ones. Jack Frost, even the first Leprechaun, or even that Uncle Sam movie. Those are really the only ones that were worth it because you can't take them seriously. They're not meant to be taken seriously. These ones just feel, they're very lackluster. They're very dated. And yeah, at least myself personally, I've never liked these late 90s, early 2000s slasher films. Especially I Know What You Did Last Summer. Even as a kid, I hated that movie. So the ending, you're left with Mary Shelton's character. She thinks it's David Boreanaz, her alcoholic boyfriend. Come to find out, the killer goes down super fucking easily. I mean, it's not even that big of a fight or a showdown. I mean, Mary Shelton sees the killer. David Boreanaz comes up, shoots him like a bunch of times, takes the mask off, and it's the Dorothy character. It was the heavy girl. She even has a little spiel towards the end of how you were the popular one, she was the sexy one, she's the smart one, the fun one, I was the fat one. Screw all of you. So we're led to believe she was the killer the whole time. And I thought that was kind of lame and stupid. But then we find out because the killer gets a bloody nose, whether when he's overwhelmed, excited, whatever. We see every time he kills, the blood comes through the mask. So when they're hugging at the end of the film, we see David Boreanaz getting a nosebleed to show he really is the killer. He is that kid. Because they even talk about how, because after she said he attacked me, he got sent to a reform school, juvenile hall, then a mental institution, and then like his parents burnt in a house fire that they don't know if he was involved. So he really got frigged up and screwed over by these girls, especially that one. And even the detective's like, well, maybe he had some plastic surgery, worked on himself, and completely transformed. I I would have liked it better had they gone the Slaughter High route, where, Marty, where, we see him at the end, he gets his revenge, and, well, actually, even the end of Slaughter High even has another twist where, it never happened, but, it would have been better if it was the Jeremy Melton kid as we knew him getting his revenge. And technically it still was, but I don't know. I wasn't too big on the ending. There really isn't much to this film. It is your typical late 90s, early 2000s slasher film. It is one of the better ones of the group. But I can say I liked the setup. Even like the tagline, this kid. Well, actually, I even like the opening credits where it's like a yearbook with like scribbles and hearts, like I love you, I love you, I love you, and I hate you, and all this stuff. I like how it's this ugly duckling, nerdy kid just gets shit on at Valentine's Day dance, gets made a fool, gets made a fool in front of everyone, and then targets the girls involved. I liked that setup. You can definitely tell, this was directed by Jamie Blanks, who also directed Urban Legend, which was another slasher of the time, which I'm not a fan of. I haven't seen it in a long time, but screenplay by Donna Powers, Wayne Powers, Gretchen Berg, and Aaron Harberts, based on the novel by Tom Savage. You can tell that with the mixture of, loosely based, you can tell that people who made this knew their 80s slashers. It was structured very well and very much like an 80s slasher. I give it credit for that. The story is ripped perfectly from the 80s slashers. Totally give it credit for that. The kills, really, other than that one snobby, angry ex-girlfriend and Denise Richards, really wasn't any special deaths. I like how Denise Richards was like in the hot tub with the lid shut over it, so she has like this much space with no air getting in. The killer just goes in with the drill, and then once he finally gets her with the drill, he just lifts the lid, throws the power drill in, and it electrocutes her. I really like the story and the structure. I just, no pun intended, didn't think it was executed that well. But I figured, what's today, the 10th? I don't even know what day it is. It's Valentine's Day this week, so why not talk about Valentine? So there it is, 2001's Valentine. Thank you for watching.